Hi folks, just going to do a little recording at the end of 1.2 and I should say 2.1, which is the cell structure, and mentioning 3.1 about transport mechanisms, because you don't need a lot in your assignment on transport mechanisms. Okay, so I'm going to share a screen with you, okay, while I'm talking. Now, if we kind of like look at the diagram that I've got here on the screen, you can see the phospholipid bilayer. So we've got two layers of phosphates, and then I've drawn the extrinsic proteins, which are things like the glycoproteins. But remember, we've also got glycolipids, which is a mixture of carbohydrates and lipids, and those act as cell recognition markers. When it comes to transport, we're really looking at the phospholipid membrane. And here you can see on the outside of the cell, we've got some water molecules and oxygen molecules, although it looks very much like the oxygen part of the molecules label has disappeared. Let's see if I can write that on. So molecules, they pass straight through the phospholipid layer because they are small, uncharged molecules. And so they pass from the outside into the inside. And remember, from high concentration to low concentration. Similarly, if you look on the inside, we've got carbon dioxide, which is produced by the mitochondria when we're respiring and creating energy. And so this needs to pass out of the cell into the blood. So we have this two-way movement between these molecules through the phospholipid layer. When it comes to active, to the other type of, I should say, diffusion, we call it facilitated diffusion, or passive, facilitated passive diffusion, because no energy is required, as with the simple diffusion of water and oxygen. And that passes through a protein channel. And that's that big blue object there, where molecules such as glucose can pass through the membrane. So let's write glucose on there. Sorry about that, that's just my phone going off. And here you've got the glucose passing through the protein channel, and that's passively by this facilitated diffusion. Then we have protein carriers and pumps that act as active transport, because they do require energy, because this protein carrier or protein pump, as some books call it, has to change shape, and so that requires energy. So here I've swung, all right, an arrow round to show the fact that to get this red molecule in, which could be sodium or potassium ions, into the cell, and that requires energy. So that kind of like summarizes not only the cell structure, but also about these transport mechanisms. So just once again, the glycoproteins, extrinsic proteins, are cell recognition, not used for transport, but just to recognize our own cells. And then we have what we call passive transport, this simple diffusion of water and oxygen from the outside into the inside of our cells, and carbon dioxide in the opposite direction out, and that's simple diffusion. When it comes to a protein channel, molecules like glucose are aided through the membrane by facilitated diffusion, because the shape of that channel helps the glucose to pass through. But again, it's passive, no energy is required. And then we come on to the protein carriers and the protein pumps, which do require energy and involve the protein changing shape to carry the molecules such as sodium or potassium ions into our cell. That's very useful for nerve transduction. Okay, and so that summarizes our cell. So the next time we actually look at our cell membrane, just remember what you're writing about in that section. I'm now going to move on to the bit more detail on cell division. Okay, have a look at the PowerPoint for the notes, and for 3.1, the detail that you'll need for the test on the distinction between passive and active transport, which you'll need to just learn for the test, which is in a fortnight's time. So I'm going to go on to the cell division, mitosis, meiosis. So I'll see you in a moment when I come start the first cell division, which is mitosis, which is to do with how our body cells repair themselves and multiply. Okay, see you in a moment.